So let's make some Halloween crafts for kids. We're going to do spider webs and bats. So these are some of the cookie cutter copycat spider web crafts that I have discovered online. I just have 3 of them, and then we're going to see how we can do it in a creative, developmentally appropriate way. So here we're going to show the reference picture so they can see what they can possibly do with this, but this is not a drawing activity. It is, they're gonna get these toothpicks and craft sticks and yarn and ribbon, and then maybe also some gel sticks, we'll see, and we'll see what kind of spider webs they can come up with that will be on a piece of cardstock. They'll choose between a black and a white background, and here are the materials that they will be allowed to use to make a collage spider web. So here are some children creating their spider webs. This is like an 8-year-old child. That's also about an 8-year-old child using some of the materials. Then I have this 4-year-old over there. We're going to come back to it. He only wanted to make it by drawing. He insisted on drawing with a marker, make his own spider web over there while the other children are creating. And this one, this 4-year-old, she basically wanted to use glue, and she was just using all the material on the table, you know, the yarn and the craft sticks, and gluing was the most fun. So here we have the child, 8.5, and then she decided to add a spider, so she drew that with an oil pastel. And then we have another 8-year-old that used pipe cleaners. And then here we have the 4-year-old that only wanted to draw. And then we have another 4-year-old who just wanted to glue. Our next project is bats, and here are a couple of cookie cutter copycat crafts that I found of bats that you can see, and then again we will try to make bats in a more creative way. So I started this activity with bats by going into Canva and finding pictures, kind of like silhouettes, and figured we'll do something with stencils. And I figured I'm gonna have to put this down and use an X-Acto knife, a razor, to cut them out, but then I realized that I could use those little nail scissors, and I managed to cut one like that. Now I also have a whole bunch of these left that we'll see how we can use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these to make these all their own stencils, and we'll see what they do with them. So it's good to cut them out because then you have individual stencils as opposed to them being all together on one page. I don't have any kids doing these bat stencil project, so I'm just going to show you some things that you can do with them. Now, I used to think that stencils were just like very, very copycat. And when I got into mixed media for adults, I saw how much fun stencils could be and how you can use them very creatively. So these are all cut up, and they can use them in a lot of different ways. They can use one and do it over and over. They can use some, make a border. They could make a picture of something and add these bat pictures. They can make a tree where bats go. They can make a haunted house. Now there's a couple of different ways to use these stencils. So I'm going to show you what I do is you can use a brush. I like to use like pieces of sponges that I break off from things, sometimes like old kids' mattresses or foam things I get in the mail. I break them apart and I use them for stenciling. Now I have the paint on a piece of wax paper. Could you put it on a plate, wherever you want. And it's very important when you do stenciling is to have as dry a sponge or as dry paint as you can. So what you do is you take it and then you dab it off, and you don't want a lot of paint, because when you have a lot of paint, it goes underneath and it doesn't give a clean impression. So you just dab like this, okay? This is what you'll have to teach the kids, and then you put it up like that. Now I also have, you might not want to use paint only. I have these gel sticks. This is a gray one. You could color it in. That's half of it. You can use markers. They can outline it. I'm actually saying that I find the stenciling easier. You could outline it and then color it in over there. You can use crayons, oil pastels, and that's how you can use these stencils for bat pictures. Other thing that you could do is use what I call, or not I call, the masks. So if you take the pieces that you cut out, because this is the stencil and this is the mask, you can take your sponge and you could go all around this way, and they get a reverse. And if you wanted to do that on a black paper, you would, let's see, let me find one here. You could do a regular stencil with white paint over here. Let me make sure that doesn't have a lot of paint in there. And now it made gray because I didn't clean it up that well. And you can have that on black paper. Now another thing I wanted to show you what you can do on a black paper, if you wanted to add bats to a haunted house, you can give them all different shapes that could possibly make a house. Doesn't have to be on a black. If you're going to do it on a black paper, give papers that the colors show up. For white paper, you use black. And they can build a house. You can show them pictures of haunted houses, and then you give them all kinds of pieces that allow them to build this haunted house, and then they can do their bats on top of it. I just recently did this with just using shapes, and a child made a house out of it, and so I'll show you that just to give you an idea of how this can be built up with shapes. If you want to find out more about what's wrong with copycat cookie cutter crafts, then go to my website, EduArt4 Kids. You'll get a free mini course that will explain it all.